For more on what the markets can expect from the Fed, let's bring in J.J. Kinahan, Chief Market Strategist at TD Ameritrade. And look who we found. Dory Wiley, CEO of Commerce Street. Did I use that last time, Dory? Were you when you were? I never remember.
Finding Dory?
Yeah, we found him.
You are Dory. You forget.
I did, and I already forgot. I assume I've used that before, but I really don't know.
Just keep swimming.
Would you introduce this guest, Joe? Who is that?
Dory.
We just found him.
Oh, you remembered.
I'm a fish with no memory. I can't remember.
Okay. Let me start with you. How are you?
Good. Great setup.
Yesterday, I mean, I think it went pretty well. Did it not? As what markets expected? And
absolutely. I mean, it's Steve's point. A, how much more do they have to do? B, I think it's really interesting. You know, we're within 1% of all-time highs, and it just still amazes me how people are so negative about the market overall. I do think, Steve, you know, the one thing that occurred to me is if they had to make this announcement when S&P was trading 2,800. Do you think there would be a little different tone, or are they playing to the stock market overall? Because with us having rallied back, I do kind of feel that may have factored into the decision overall, even though it's not supposed to.
I think that's right. I think that the idea is the Fed met the market more than halfway here, right?
Yeah.
You got your 2 cuts. You may get your third, but I think the data has to make the case for the next cut,
right,
rather than it being automatic.
Right, and so that's the one thing that I think is interesting. We'll see if we go to particularly till October and beyond, if we have a bit of a sell-off between now and then. But I still feel overall, and you know, as we talk to our clients, 2,800 to 3,000 on the S&P 500. I know we're just above that right now. Still seems to be the range we're stuck in until we have some sort of settlement on tariffs overall.
Hey, Dory, I mean, would you say now's the time to buy banks? Now that we can't go that much lower. Rates have seemed to bounce off some of the lows. Is this the place to go in your view right now?
Well, first of all, I'm never going to get in the trap of saying we can't go much lower on rates because we saw what happened before.
We go negative. Yeah,
and
we go to minus 100, I guess.
Exactly, and we see where the world is going. But having said that, I do love banks right here because they have a huge amount of capital, but yet they have a full recession priced into their forward PE ratios. Credit still looks good. The expansion's still there. It's not as rapid as the 4% that the market and the president wants, but 2% is great growth, and the banks are positioned very well for a mild recession if it were to show up.
So were you unsatisfied with anything you heard from Jay Powell yesterday, Dory?
No, actually, I really loved what he said. I thought he handled it very well. They were non-committal going forward. You know, the market's been very debt-induced. The market says we want to grow at 4%. We got a real estate president that likes debt and high growth as well. But the world is slowing down. We've got production and manufacturing and things slowing down. We've got low inflation. So we're at low in global rates from 150 years. So there's a lot of structural things changing in the world. And we got to realize that we may be in a slow growth world for a while, and that's okay, but we don't need to fuel it with a bunch of addiction to debt. And by him coming back to the president and kind of implying, hey, you know, we're doing what we can monetary wise, Congress and the president need to do what they need to do fiscally wise. That's what I thought he should have done back in July, and I was glad that he started to bring that up and now say, look, we're just going to be data dependent going forward because we need more evidence that there's a recession before we panic and talk ourselves into one.
So, JJ, can I just put the inverted yield curve scares behind me now? I mean,
I don't know if you can necessarily say that it's not going to happen again, but I do think the one thing that this proved is, and Dory brings up a good point, it was almost like everyone wanted to say, okay, this happened for 3 days. We have a recession coming in 3 weeks. You know, and as we know, it usually takes a longer time than that to begin with. And the second part about it is it's amazing how quickly we see the perspective of what rates should do change. You just saw it in the last couple of weeks. You know, we saw it right before the cut a little bit as all of a sudden, you know, today I'm reading, and what Chairman Powell said, I think still has people pretty divided. Today I've read probably 3 notes that said we definitely are cutting rates again, and I've read 3 notes that said we are done for the year. So I think that the market can change either way really quickly right now. With that, could we see an inverted yield curve again for the short term? Yes, we could. At the end of the day, I still think it comes down a little bit to what tariffs are going to do, number one. And number two, we are projected to have a slower earnings season, and so we'll see what happens there. The last thing that does scare me a little bit for earnings is perhaps dollar strength may hit some of the multinationals.
What are you thinking, Steve?
There's a point when the Fed has to make a shift. Dory, sorry, just real quick. They're doing insurance cuts now.
Right.
They're really not very data dependent. I think that time may be now. Look for the jobs numbers, the GDP forecast, all that
That's
stuff.
an interesting point. So forget about all the external pressures and things that they've been worried about. Now it really is back to data.
It comes down to the. I think they have to at some point. I think now is about.
He basically said that.
I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
Okay, J.J. Kinahan, thanks. Hey, so Dory, it's Wiley, right? You know, I figure it was Wiley because does Bill Murray still watch?
Yeah.
Bob Wiley. What about Bob? Remember that? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a fish analogy. He carried a goldfish around on his neck.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
You know what the fish's name? Perfect name for a fish.
George.
Gil.
Yeah.
Dory, it was worth it, wasn't it? Even if you didn't impart any useful information, wasn't it worth it just to have this other completely useless?
Just say yes,
I love the abuse, and believe it or not, I have a partner that we sponsor in a private equity fund, and his name is Nemo. I kid you not.
Come on! I knew you were going there. That's impossible.
I know.
Is he a clown?
What are the odds? But we did find each other, so that's the key thing.